are these people?
What's up, everybody? It's me, Reef, and Collin. We're here with an extra story this week because we had to fucking say some shit. We had to say we told you so, pretty much.
Yes.
Is that about the side of it?
Well, I mean, we weren't streaming at all during Force the Vote, but
no, but we still said the same thing.
Yeah, we even then, just on Twitter, very much pro Force the Vote, and we got smeared, and even now, being smeared for it. Yeah, but this morning I was like, because I've really enjoyed the pettiness people have had, like the pro Force the Vote people, just as far as what's happening right now in Congress. And, I've really enjoyed the petty discourse. It's validation, just saying,
that's
we're
because,
right. Like you can.
That's because you're a. What?
Yes.
Is that how we do it? So
it's fair because I can admit when I'm wrong, but it's even better when you're right. And and we pretty much Jimmy Dore and Brianna Gray have led the charge in this for the last 2 years, and and now they've been vindicated, in terms of what they were saying back in 2021, is now coming to fruition now. And it's the Republicans who are actually forcing the vote, and just as today, getting concessions. And, and one big one, which I have to check into more, cutting defense budget, which is huge. I'm for that. The fact that Republicans are making that concession, and the squad 2 years ago couldn't even do something similar, I think, it should really show what of embarrassment.
Well, and granted, even if this is performative, even if that is performative, right? Like, because we all know Republicans are equally as bad when it comes to war hawkishness. They're wanting to go to war with China any minute now, like, as well as the countless years, all the people, including McConnell and whatever, have been pushing for all sorts of conflict. The fact that they're allowed to get this right, that's my issue. But anyway, even though the hoes be knowing, we probably should let at least one of the hoes tell people what's up.
So this is a clip that Matt Orfalea produced for Jimmy back in 2021. So just in case you needed a reminder of what he was saying and what people who were
doing at the time back then,
were doing. Me actually said this before, but actually
We can't.
helping to organize. Actually helping organize the protests in DC 2 years ago. Like, so, but this is, this is what people were saying, and this is essentially what Jimmy was saying. So
We can't even get a floor vote on Medicare for all.
That's garbage. You can do it right now. We need 15 Democrats.
Hi, Jimmy.
We need the elected officials that you helped get elected to tell Nancy Pelosi that you will not vote for her as speaker unless Medicare for all is put on the House floor for a vote.
I think it's a really smart idea.
The worst abuse of power, Crystal, is not using the power you have to fight for people.
Will they? Time to let AOC know they have no other option, because we're watching and we see through their bullshit excuses.
We have to put public pressure on them.
I want to see who's going to vote against healthcare in the middle of a pandemic. If you're not going to do it now, you are never going to do it, you phony.
All the people who filled up your voicemail, they're going to remember whether you did the right thing here.
Which side are they really on? This is where you force progressive House members to reveal who they answer to. Do they answer to their constituents or do they answer to the party bosses? Listen to AOC's own words.
The Democratic Party does not do more unless it is pushed.
And so this moment is the great unmasking.
Force it to happen.
Ask them, are you fighters or are you careerists?
Ask
are you
them.
activists for the people or are you
I need that
posers
and a
on
soundboard.
Twitter?
Everyone's going to try to tell you that if you're just a little bit nicer, then it'll be fine. No.
The whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. You got to make them uncomfortable. She's pretending to be part of a movement when she's really running cover for Nancy Pelosi. Did you think anybody voted for you so you could vote Nancy Pelosi without getting them anything? This is Medicare for all. People's actual lives depend on us doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's your chance to actually use your leverage. Will you?
Take risks.
Or will you be a party fucking climber?
Start bringing the ruckus on the Democratic Party. Force it to happen. Do not trust any political party to automatically work in your interest.
I call on everybody in independent media to join this mission.
Force it to happen.
Force the Congress to show which side are they really on. No vote for Nancy Pelosi unless Medicare for all is put on the House floor for a vote.
So we need to push them.
Great stuff from Orfalea, as always. I do remember that back then there was pushback there as well, especially with specifics of the plan. I know both Ryan Grimm and, what was it, Sirota? Were kind of like, just get Nancy out. And it took me a while to figure out why that was like. And I think I finally had a breakthrough on that the other day. They're only pushing for a figurehead change. Them.
Yeah.
They're saying essentially that, like, well, let's just get Nancy out and then everything will be fine. We'll be able to get those votes that we want and be able to, but there's no good replacement. Like, even if you got Brother Cornel West as the fucking, like, speaker, you're not going to get, like, you're still not going to get those things. So it's like, to me, it was leveraging Nancy Pelosi's need for power, right, to get something, because look at what's happening now. Every Democrat, standard shit-lib Democrat, thinks that the Republicans are a shit show because they can't get a vote together, right? What would have happened on the other side of this?
Right. And on the reverse right now, the Democrats are basically bragging that they're unified behind Hakeem Jeffries, the very person who, you know, if given a chance, could primary squad members.
Yeah, but I mean, at least they got unity, you know?
Right.
Like, we're going through the same, like, we're talking about, we got to be unified as a Democrat. No, stop.
Well, that's the thing. We did not vote you in to unify with corporate Democrats.
We brought you in to bring the ruckus.
Be adversarial. And which brought me to this quote. Actually, I tweeted this out on Monday in a Twitter argument I had, you know, but it's relevant here. So, Reef, if you don't mind pulling that up.
Is that after this? I think so, right?
Yeah.
Hold on.
We can't even get a floor vote.
No.
Well, we know you can't, but
where's your tweet? What tweet?
No, it's the second slide. The Malcolm X one.
Okay, I got you. Here you go. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. So, revolutionary thinker Malcolm X said, "A revolution is bloody. Revolution is hostile. Revolution knows no compromise. Revolution overturns and destroys everything that gets in its way. And you sitting around here like a knot on the wall saying, I'm going to love these folks no matter how much they hate me." I mean, this was back in the 50s, 60s was saying this. And it's
you need a revolution.
Yeah.
Whoever heard of a revolution where they lock arms, as Reverend, was it Klieg, was pointing out beautifully, singing, "We shall overcome." Just tell me. You don't do that in a revolution. You don't do any singing. You're too busy swinging. Great fucking line from X.
Right.
I mean, what happened to him?
We all know.
If we remember,
yeah.
You know.
But so I mean, I was thinking about this morning, and Reef, I probably need your help on this a little bit because this is literally one of my rants and just in my stream of consciousness. So yeah, as I said earlier, like it was fun,
Yes.
just being like, yeah, you're right. But yeah, actually on the way to work today, I was listening to Brianna's podcast on Collin early this morning on the way to work, and we'll play it in a bit. But Afeni, friend to the show, came on and started talking. She's an activist and organizer here in DC, and she started talking about, I think, the reality of what it means for her as an organizer, the fact that the squad didn't do what, they campaigned on doing. And it actually made me cry, on the way to work this morning. And I cried because, and I might cry now actually, like, I think for me personally, even this week, I'm just hearing people say, that was 2 years ago, get over it, like it was bound to fail and all this kind of stuff. And for me, and people said this, yeah, we knew it was going to fail more than likely, but it would show where people stood.
Yes.
In the middle of a fucking pandemic.
In the middle of like the height of like people's obsession with COVID, you would have forced, like, one, we're using Nancy Pelosi's need for power against her to try and get change to actually happen, or at least hold people accountable for that change. One of the two, right? And you're gonna tell me that every fucking TYT sycophant and like naysayer of this plan wasn't gonna help suddenly because Jimmy Dore got a fucking vote to happen? You're not gonna suddenly now push for a fucking issue that you supposedly give a fuck about? We're huh?
And you know what? And all these arguments in all honesty are just seriously fucked up, and I'll say why. Because if the squad actually did force the vote back then, the TYT people, the Sam Cedar people, the David Pakman people, like Majority of the Report, all those folks who are anti-force the vote, they weren't going to say like, "Oh, the squad sucks, I'm not going to vote for them anymore." No, they would have been cheering them on. There would have been. Even if it failed, it would have brought more consciousness to the idea of, at least in this Medicare for All, or not even Medicare for All, any issue that the squad chose. Because even now, like, they've been going at this for a week.
McConnell said the other day that he was pretty much willing to capitulate to whatever demand that people had. Or what was it, McConnell, or was it who are they floating as speaker?
Now?
Yeah.
Or back then?
Now.
McCarthy,
right. McCarthy was like, y'all do whatever you want. Like, give me the vote.
Right. So
quick.
Right. But this is what people have been talking about, other than other things, all week, is the chaos that's happening in Congress right now. And it's like, it's not chaos. This is what, and I'm also kind of sick and tired in terms of people saying like, because I think people are so used to having things clean in the sense of, oh, you must have the right amount of people and everybody must have the vote and then it must go to the Senate and pass and, all for that kind of shit. No, politics is violent and it's messy. And it should be chaotic with debating and arguing your say towards pushing things for the people. And that's what you see the Republicans doing right now. And the fact that the squad are basically kind of saying, you know, like, we're unified behind Hakeem Jeffries, you know, like that, it gives the falsehood and it gives the appearance, like, for people that that's what we should be expecting. Like, go to the UK and look at Parliament and see how they debate shit for days.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's all fucking
Catch me outside. How about that?
energy.
Basically, you know, like, and we don't necessarily in this. So it's like our politicians are so fucking lazy that they can't. Which is why in a lot of cases, a lot of these debates go to the Supreme Court because they don't want to debate it.
So
you know, they want they. But I say all of that to say, you know, like, I got very sad this morning because, like those of you know, I was home last week and I was visiting my mom, and I mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. Like, so my mom gave me a letter, last week, which basically confirms that my mom's kidneys are failing, both of them. And she's going to need dialysis. And she's scared in terms of
or a
the
transplant.
implications of,
But yeah.
yeah, well, not even that, but just dialysis in general.
Until
like,
then.
Right.
Yeah.
And because she's a nurse, she has the medical capacity to kind of know, like,
what that means,
what she would have to do or how she can do it herself.
And
but
she's like, fuck that. You know?
Basically, you know, but she's worried about, it's like 80 grand or something like that for treatment. She doesn't have that kind of money for that.
No.
I don't have that kind of money to give her. So it's kind of like, you know, what the fuck are we going to do? And I thought about that in terms of, you know, like what Jordan Charlton said in his Substack article, like, over Christmas.
We got to take a break.
Like, right. And for me, it's like, just right there, that's my mom. You know, I can't shut that off. You know, that paper that she gave me was the thing that has been, and it's been on my mind, and I haven't mentioned it much, you know that, but that letter she got confirming her diagnosis, you know, like, you know, I can't take a break from not thinking about the reality of this country where this is an issue that many people, especially if you're working class, have to deal with, and having to make decisions in terms of refusing care because it would affect your family's finances, or getting the care and being dead broke or in debt.
How many motherfuckers do you think are dying, dead, or you know what I'm saying? That, like, if that had happened then, and we had gotten that vote to actually taken place, would still be around. I feel like I don't know how any of those progressive politicians can sleep at night knowing that's on their hands. The decision to do something could have been done, and they did nothing. To get what?
Well,
Pago?
Well,
great.
Well,
what did that fucking get you? Jack shit.
But you know what? Like, let's be realistic. Like, we're not expecting that a floor vote would get Medicare for all, like, now. No. But in the middle of a pandemic,
right? It was the timing.
The idea of Medicare for all, especially given the 2020 campaign, thanks to Bernie, Medicare for all was in the consciousness of the majority of people in the country. It was talked about. Even mainstream media was talking about it. So the idea of the squad bringing that into more of that consciousness in the middle of a pandemic when people were dying, and this was pre-vaccine, and like we were shut in for like 9 months prior to that and didn't know what to do, like it would have elevated that conversation and that debate in terms of what would it mean to have universal healthcare in this country truly.
Well,
that's what Force the Vote would have done. And so I do want to play.
Yep, I'm about to where I was transitioning to.
Yeah, I do want you to hear what I heard this morning.
Okay.
That made me think about this in terms of, because I think we've just been hearing about, the squad and, the Republicans, whatever. But I think we need to kind of break it down to what it means to people on the ground, especially people who are organizers and activists.
Yeah.
Who have been fighting for this for years.
Yeah.
So I want you guys.
Hey, friend, girl, you just caught me, girl. I literally just said I'm gonna have to catch her next time.
No, I'm glad I got you in time. What's on your mind tonight?
I just really, a lot of people have said some of the similar things that I wanted to say. But I just think it's really interesting to see somebody like a network like TYT, who over 80% of their audience supported this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then y'all are talking all this shit about people that actually supported this idea. And it's really frustrating because I've been in a couple of like Democrat spaces just because I organize.
I didn't even think about that, by the way. 80% of TYT people voted to do this. And they're still fucking talking shit.
Actually, I think it was higher than that, but like over 80% of the people who, polled.
Yeah,
their own audience who were polled, like, should the squad go for Force the Vote, supported it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Anna Kasparian this week was like, they shouldn't have done it because it was going to fail. Basically just kind of shows how little concern they have of that audience.
The host be knowing.
The audience did, and you didn't, Anna.
Prince George's County, Maryland, which is a Democrat stronghold. And a lot of those people are like corporate Democrats, established Democrats. And when you hear the way that they talk about, what is happening with the Republicans, you can see that what happened 2 years ago definitely negatively affected how people on the like liberal side of, the spectrum, how they view what is going on right now. And so it's just really frustrating as an organizer, like on the ground, that's trying to advance some of these ideas, who's still trying to talk about more radical policies. Because I don't know about you, but I don't give a fuck how many people want to be abolitionists. I'm an abolitionist through and through. Like, and it's a very lonely world to do the work that we do. So I don't know. I guess I'm just overall just looking around and just trying to figure out where our momentum is going to come from. The strike didn't happen with the railroad workers. A lot of the labor movement that is happening
and
right now.
Whose fucking fault was that?
Right. So again, the idea of Force the Vote, it didn't have to be Medicare for all. It could be any progressive concession.
Anything.
Anything. And the result of it now, it's like, as Afeni said, we were kind of hoping that the railroaders would strike. Didn't. We've noticed this past year that certain, organizations are getting, recognition in the press in terms of the labor movement, like Amazon and Starbucks in particular.
Yes.
And we know why.
On a particular individual of one of those, looking at you here, Mr. Smalls.
Right. And like, unions, like
capitulate easily.
And I feel that personally, given my teachers union, I feel is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So there has been a ripple effect in terms of the squad's inaction and their cowardice to do what DSA, Justice Democrats, and the people that, campaigned on their behalf wanted them to do.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing the effects of that right now. Go ahead.
Now isn't getting the same amount of coverage, so people aren't really, standing in as much solidarity as they used to. So it's just, I don't know. I'm really interested to see like what's going to happen.
And saying that, speaking of DSA, you say what you want about MPP. What are they doing this week? solidarity for what? With libertarians, mind you, to try to end wars. God forbid.
And, MPP has its issues, and we don't stand with, the issues with the volunteers, Nick Brown, and like all of that. Like that, we don't.
There's definitely some more questions that need to be answered there. And stuff needs to happen.
That being said, and I think what I'm really upset with is, I think for me personally, I try to be consistent in what I say and how that reflects in my actions. We don't need to agree with each other on everything. Hell, like I don't even agree with myself half the time on shit.
Yeah.
But you can disagree with people on certain issues or debate or whatever, but you can agree with the person who you may dislike on certain things. That is valid and that's okay. And I feel like the idea of like people, hating Forced to Vote because it was Jimmy Dore who elevated the idea when again, remember, this was a DSA tactic in their handbook, I think speaks to a lot of the unseriousness, but also how easily, good ideas, especially on the left, in terms of pushing for progressive policy, can be nuked, very easily. Because once it becomes corporate owned, then it no longer belongs to the people, and then it just becomes dissected and diluted into something that is not representative of the radical actions that we're looking to take on, on the left. So, it's just sad that like people have become so much concerned about who's saying what and who's not saying what versus focusing on the policy
who's
and the
doing
issue
what.
And who's doing it. Rather than
and pay attention to the people. Can we talk about this for a second, boys and girls? Do you know how many people don't know who Jimmy Dore is, let alone anything that he talks about, or the fact, or wants to join his supposedly secret right-wing cabal, even though it's all for pretty much Medicare for the same thing. He's been consistent as fuck. I don't give a fuck. But he doesn't have that much power. He doesn't. You know who does? The people who could have forced anything to happen, who still can force stuff to happen, who don't. Instead, what they do is they take power away from you time and time again when in regards to practically any issue. And then what they do is they tell you that they got this, this, and this instead. But then that this, and this, a month later, disappears or isn't relevant. Like Pago, for instance. What? Colin, help me out. There's so many of those that, like,
But the thing is, it's like, how is that? I mean, even if Pago was, make the case for it.
Yes. Which they did, but then it goes away. Like, this is what I'm saying. Right. Like, Biden just makes it disappear, or it doesn't actually do what you said it was going to do on the 10 when we talked about, they tried to there was like student debt. That didn't go the way that was planned. There was another one. The housing moratorium. The
$15 minimum wage.
Yes. Like things that they say we get, that they fought for, don't exist now. Like, swept under the rug and ignored 8 months later. Anyway, I don't want to ignore Afeni that we got to get back to. So
happened in 2024, and I just can't help but think, especially after hearing your radar earlier this week, when you were just talking about like what the discourse could have possibly looked like if this was 2021 and we were actually moving forward with progressives actually deciding to force the vote. Mm-hmm. Exactly how would have a Chuck Todd and Ari Melber, one of them, a Chris Cuomo, he was still on television back then. How would they have gone on television and said, well, these crazy progressives want to give people health care during a deadly pandemic in a country where 68,000 people were dying without health care, or affordable housing, or literally insert any social issue here? How fucking crazy would they have sounded? Like, even now, like...
Pause. And I think that's the point.
Yeah. It's always been the point
of Force the Vote. Always been the point.
Yeah. It let you know who was actually fighting for you or not. It also makes it a lot harder for them to argue COVID bullshit later because they didn't do X, Y, and Z. Like, would have made it more difficult.
Right. I would have loved to see the excuse.
Yeah.
That politicians and mainstream media would have made to be against universal health care at the beginning of the pandemic.
They're willing to give you they're willing to give you a whole fleet of vaccines free, but not everything, but not anything else. Not anything else. What? I broke my leg.
You know what?
Like,
right. So it's like, and honestly, that should have been talked about more. The fact that we were able to get vaccines free. Why not? Cancer
insulin treatments. Why not insulin? Why not everything?
And these are the things that people are not asking. But the squad should be elevating these issues.
And meanwhile, what does the squad vote for? More police fucking funding for DC police? More funding for military budgets, especially in Ukraine. Like, I mean, how we covered this last night. How much are we up to now? Like
800
billion
overall.
In case people needed that drama, definitely. But anyway, we can finish up.
Yes, I'm not cheering on the Republicans, but I'm definitely watching with a little bit of green eyes, as you said. Because it's like, what the hell? Like, these motherfuckers aren't even asking for shit that is like tangible to the American people, and their base is still supporting them. Just imagine how much bipartisan support we could get, like, within the constituency among like Medicare for all, tackling the surveillance state. Like, y'all want to, like, shit. Y'all don't want to do Medicare for all. That is something that Republicans agree on. Is the the amount of illegal surveillance that happens on America. Try that. Just do fucking anything. And so now you have these people who were just so fucking wrong, who were so loud and wrong, and instead of actually admitting the fact that they were wrong, and so that we can start to move forward as a movement, they have decided to stand 10 toes down on their bullshit. And it's just so frustrating because even if they were willing to say, like, hey, you know what? We fucked up, y'all. It is what it is. Like, even if they don't want to fully acknowledge, like somebody said, how are we going to move forward in 2024? What is the game plan moving forward? And this time, we're actually listening to the people that are organizing on the ground. And this time, we're actually listening to the farther left spectrum of our, big tent, whatever the fuck is going on right now. Like, God damn it. Like, just listen, because we are, like, a lot of us are the people that are either working in the streets or constantly in contact with people that live in poverty or that are working class people. Like, and we're advocating for those voices, period. So, I mean, I don't know.
What's that?
Yeah, I mean, I love Afeni. My thing is, like, she knows why that's not the case.
Right.
Like, you don't have to ask why. We know why. It's because they're paid not to be. We also know that, like, we can do a far better job of those same tasks without them. Honestly.
Right.
We don't need their help. Right. If anything, Afeni is in congruency with Rome have shown that you can do better than the governments. Honestly. Like,
but again, these are the voices that are not being heard.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt like it was very important to hear Afeni, what she has to say, because we've been hearing Jordan, we've been hearing Jen, we've been hearing Anna. Hell, we've been hearing a lot from government as far as, like the chaos and the unity and all this kind of stuff, but not hearing people on the ground for this shit.
Yeah.
This is what needs to be elevated. especially people of color.
Yeah.
And these are the voices that are not being listened to in terms of the reality of like the inaction of the squad and the Democratic Party in general.
Well, and you're not willing to talk to people outside your little bubble either. Like, what you could be going over, AOC could be going right over to Matt Gaetz right now and be like, get this, this, and this. I'll get this for you later, right? But like, if you can manage this, this, and this, and get floor votes for these things, Epstein trial, FTX stuff, like how much? What do you want to get into? Like, you have all the power right now. Like, that's what I didn't understand, why they wouldn't use it. We know why they wouldn't use it, but like, this is my problem with the whole thing, is that it's all a fucking circus act to begin with. Like, but you know, at least they're trying to get something for their constituencies.
Right. Like, but again, it's more the personalities.
Yeah. Well, and that's what Ryan Grimm and others are more willing to fucking fight for, is to get fucking the personalities dealt with, as opposed to like using these shitty personalities to get change to happen. Like,
but again, it's the idea of like, listen to the people on the ground. And this is what, again, with Jordan Substack, I was actually going to write a Substack in response, but I didn't, but I might as well say it now. What would I love Jordan to do is, instead of kind of going off like in his rant or whatever and just talking about it in terms of his experience. And the thing is, he should know better given, you know, the interviews he has done in Flit on Standing Rock or whatever else. He should have gone to activists and be like, tell me what you want people to know in light of the reality of what you're facing in terms of the inaction of government, in terms of the inaction of the squad.
What
in
he's saying to you,
like,
Jordan, is that no one gives a fuck about what you think, but people give a lot more fucks about what the activists do think. So that's where you do good. Shut the fuck up, keep your opinion out of shit, and let people voice what they need. Because obviously that shit ain't happening.
But not even that, but the people like who are actively doing it.
Yeah.
Like the people, as I said, who cannot afford to mentally take a break and just take time off for themselves or whatever. Especially if you're in low income areas, that need is in your face constantly.
Yeah.
And you can't, and even like in some places, like you're living in that environment.
Yeah.
And it's not, and you can't just escape and turn off, knowing the reality of what's happening in those communities and knowing the needs of those people in those communities. Like, you know, you can't do that. And that's kind of the cross that activists have to bear. But these are the voices that need to be elevated in our consciousness. And I think just as far as like all these organizations that kind of gatekeep, you know, the guise of, oh, we're helping these communities when they're really not. And so, but I just felt it was important, you know, to kind of elevate what Afeni is saying, because ultimately I think that's what's getting lost in this conversation regarding force to vote.
Yeah.
This is the implications of that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact for Medicare for All, for instance, it's dead. I'm not sorry to say it. It's dead.
Yeah. And you might as well, that was a compromise, by the way. You might as well fight for what you actually wanted to begin with now. Like, it's like you're that's just fighting against the system we have. You might as well fight for the best system possible. Like, if you're going to, especially federally, like, if you're going to push for fucking, like, awareness, make people aware of that shit. Same thing with unions. Same thing. You know, you don't have to fight for like chump change. No, we want cooperatives and we want them yesterday. Like, you know, so I don't know. I feel like we're diverging a little.
We're diverging a little bit, but I think it all relates in terms of, again, the implications of the squad's inaction and their cowardice, weakness, whatever, phrase you want to use, we're now in 2023 and we're in worse shit now than when we started. And the reality is, like with Medicare for All, universal healthcare in this country in general, this has been a thing for like a century, really a century.
Yeah.
And was much more further away from actually having that come to pass than I think that we've ever been.
And for the people still fucking holding water for these fucking clowns.
Catch me outside. How about that?
Like, I'm fucking tired of the shit. Like it's gaslighting at this point, and it needs to fucking stop. Like,
it's the idea, like JB says, the urgency.
Yes.
Like, this is not important shit. This is urgent shit. People needed this yesterday. And so, so stop kind of calling out activists when we say, or get frustrated and kind of say, wait, we need to do this in this way, because you're not, again, for me, this is urgent for me.
Yeah.
My mom could die.
Yeah, it's classic. Where the fuck is your anger at? Like, stop telling me to calm down. You fucking calm up. That's possible. How does that work? What?
That's what I have to deal with.
Yeah.
Right now. And no,
everyone's been dealing with fucking shit. Like, and money's still pouring out of the fucking military-industrial complex. Like, still. Yeah. And it's because fucking no one wants to hold their fucking favorite Democratic superhero accountable. They've got more fucking vitriol when their fucking superhero they don't fucking like does something not comic book related. Like, no one gives a shit that the Hulk's fucking not the perfect shade of green. Fucking people are dying. Like, get mad about that shit. Be in the people's fucking face over that shit.
Right. I think you, me, and India, I think even this week, we just talked about there's just so much despair.
Yeah.
For what we see.
People need to see a fucking way out, and they don't see it. Like, and it's time to fucking, you're cornered. It's time to start fucking fighting back on shit. And like, if anyone's telling you that fucking any of this shit was not correct, like, move on, ignore them, make your voice louder. Like, it's about that time. Anything else? I think that's fucking it.
I think that's it. And just my last word on this is I think we've made that commitment, in terms of really understanding what activism means in organization and what that entails, and having people on that can educate us in terms of what we have to do, and finding actual actions that are substantive and ongoing that can push towards actual change. Because as you said, like Afeni and Rome are just two examples of what can be done, on the ground without the help, of our political leaders.
Yeah.
And we need to take more of those examples and having people who have done this work, to really elevate those voices so that we're able to kind of bring that change into communities where our politicians are failing us.
Well, and it's both fucking parties, as like, it doesn't matter how they fucking label themselves. Because, I keep trying to tell you fucking people, like, you know what I'm saying? Is practically the catchphrase now. But anything we got to plug before I do?
So,
stay tuned. Same bat times, same bat channels.
Check us out, indienews.network.
Please
check
sub.
out all our links.
We're almost
check
there.
Check us out on Twitter at Get Indie News.
Just get us to 1,000 subs. Look down there, see how many we're at. Click the button. But otherwise, keep fucking killing it, people. Labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
And then have a good weekend.